It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Monday, August 5th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that's talking Flyers prospects.
All right, let's do it.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. You can find me on Twitter at rmiriam. I'm here, as always, with Russ Cohen, who's on all your favorite social media apps at Sportsology. We are at Locked On Flyers on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Twitter as well. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a booster bonus daily. That's right, there's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit fanduel.com/lockedon to get started. You can find us over on YouTube or on the SiriusXM app or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Subscribe to get our latest episode as soon as it's available here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We are in week 2 of our August programming schedule. So again, just a reminder, episodes Monday, Wednesday, and Friday this week. And today we are going to focus on the World Junior Summer Showcase. We thought we were going to talk about Michkov today. That's going to be on Wednesday with our scheduling. But I think, the thing to take away from this World Junior Summer Showcase and the Flyers prospects and the 8 Flyers prospects that were there overall, which was the highest of any team in the league, by the way, they all showed out real well over the last couple of weeks. And that was a really good thing to see.
Yeah, I mean, there's no bad prospects. It's just they're not all going to be able to make the teams. That's all. It's just these are pressure cooker situations. Coaches look for certain things, but no, they all look good. I mean, these are all good prospects. You never know what happens in their journey, but right now they look fine.
Yeah, I had a chance to watch some of the action over the last few days, and man, I would say, first off, that USA Canada game was extremely physical. It got very testy at several occasions. So even for something like the Summer Showcase, USA versus Canada, that rivalry does not go away.
No, and the fact that it was in the final like that, that's when they'll be more willing to do it because then that's it. So that's in
Right.
these kinds of things, that's generally when you see it. So no, that's good. I mean, yeah, the rivalry is good. Obviously, these teams are really close. The US to me does look a little better. They still do.
Yeah, well, we're going to start, however, with Team Canada because
Mhm.
last week when we checked in on the tournament, Canada had not played yet. They did a couple exhibition games. I believe they were in Windsor and weren't really part of the official tournament. They had like a split squad game and then they played against Sweden as well. And that's where Oliver Bonk played his games. They did not bring him to the main tournament again because he's one of the guaranteed guys
Right.
to make the team. So they didn't feel the need to have him play for these later games in the tournament. As it was with Team USA, these games were for the borderline guys to see who had a chance to make it. But I think, obviously, well, maybe not so obviously when we get to the second guy we're going to talk about. But I think the first one you want to talk about is Jett Luchanko
Hmm.
because he's the Flyers' top draft pick from this past year. And you really want to see where he falls in amongst the U20 crew now that he's graduating from the U18. Like, where does
Hmm.
he fit in this larger picture? And I have to say, he had a really good showcase.
Hmm. He did. I mean, look, you could see the two-step quickness. What's interesting though is some of the things from summer camp still, dev camp still showed up. A little trouble in the middle of the
Hmm.
ice with the
Yeah,
physical play there and stuff. So there's some things that showed up, but the two-step quickness showed up. He scored. I still think he's on the outside looking in. I'd be pleasantly surprised if he makes it. Uh, but he did all he could. I mean, it's just a lot of times they don't bring the young guys just because, and if they do bring the young guys, you've got to be like Crosby good almost to do it, to make that kind of team. So I'm not going to have my hopes up for that one. But as far as how he did, he played great.
Yeah, he, I thought was one of the stronger players on Team Canada in terms of having a complete game. I think your point was right. It was especially noticeable in open ice, right? He has
Yes.
trouble with puck control a little. He lets it get away with him.
Mhm.
And you saw that in the shootout
Yeah.
where he wasn't able to hold the puck on his stick and lost it in the shootout attempt. And that's pretty typical for him. It seems like that
Yeah.
he just really needs to get a handle on that. But man, is that speed something to behold. Without even looking at the number, I knew it was him going up the ice
Right.
single time. And I think, obviously in that USA Canada game, he was centering a line with Tisha Ginla and Beckett Seneke. So
Yeah,
that's pretty special to begin with.
it
Uh,
is.
but they had some really good chemistry. But he definitely led the line, as you should, as a center, in terms of kind of controlling the action of the line. And, he got a goal in
Yeah.
the game that was very well deserved.
Mhm.
He had some really good shots. I just thought he had a really strong performance in that game overall.
He did, and like I said, he's got a really good game speed. I still think his skating needs some work, though, otherwise in other areas of his game. But you could see when he feels like there's a point where he could turn the corner, like he did on that goal, like he could do it, and
Yeah.
that's a big thing. I mean, that's going to help him down the line. But and it is good that he played with the guys he played with. Still, like I said, Canada's going to be Canada. So I'm just telling
Well,
fans, don't get your hopes up.
yeah, I just really think it's going to come down to what philosophy Canada has going into the
Hmm.
tournament in
Yeah.
terms of what kinds of players, and that'll make or break a lot of these guys we're talking
Oh
about.
yeah.
One guy that I think will likely make the team, Carsen Bjarnason,
Oh, he
goaltender.
made the team. No, no, he's on the
Yeah,
team.
right. So I think unless something crazy happens, he will
If
be
he's
one of the
injured.
goaltenders. Yeah,
Yeah.
for Team Canada. But man, he comes in for the second half of that USA Canada game. So he comes in cold and then just gets barraged with
He did
shots for
get
the.
barraged.
So only playing the second half of a game, he faced 28 shots. That's bonkers. Saved 27 of them, and he let one in the shootout. Because USA won the game in the shootout, but
Yeah.
not his fault at all. Oh, and the one goal he let in was a 5-on-3 penalty kill. So, just lights out performance. His calmness and his presence was like, I just felt like this was one of the best games I've ever seen him play.
Yeah, it was a great performance. He had to stop some point blank shots. They were
Hmm.
it just seemed like, and
Breakaways.
maybe this was in the second period. Every time the puck went up the ice, it came right back, and it was either a 2-on-1 or a 1-on-0,
Hmm.
and he had to stop it just for like a sequence of like maybe like 2 minutes, and he was stopping a lot of shots at that
Yeah.
point, and really that was a big deal. I mean, that's something where you don't really get to see in the OHL games as much because his team's not great, and we didn't see it in Dev Camp at all because he was on the wrong team. And
Right.
so, you know, this is nice to see.
Yeah, I was very pleased with it. I certainly hope he was as well. Yeah, he just like never looked like he was rattled at all
No,
and was just like, all right,
no,
another
he played his
breakaway.
game. He was calm.
Yeah.
He was quick post to post. He didn't panic.
Hmm.
He did all the right things. He's going to make the team.
Yeah. So very excited to see that because again, like we said, it's just been, few and far between in terms of opportunities to see him in an environment like this.
Yeah, and this will be
Uh,
good for him.
Yeah, Denver Barkey, who, like we said in our preview of this tournament, just missed the cut last year. I think he's really making a case for himself this year. Again, with his size, it'll depend on what the team is
That's
looking
what
for.
the dividing line is going to be. Are they looking for size, or are they looking for that more experienced player? It's going to come down to that because we know he could play.
Right. And one of the things, and Stephen Ellis noted this in his recap of the game against Finland on Friday, is that he's playing more physical. And I think that's 100% true. He's like trying to use his body a little
Hmm.
bit more. And, he said in an interview he was starting to model his game after Travis Konechny a little bit, which makes a ton of sense. Right.
Sure.
But he was getting quality time in that game. He was with Tisha Ginla and Beckett Seneke. In the game against the U.S., he was with Berkeley Catton and Callum Ritchie. So really good line mates, but I think that he stood out amongst those top guys as well. And I know that he's a year ahead of some of them, but still, like with his size, I think he did some really great work. And in that USA Canada game, he had a really great finish on his goal that tied the game. It was a whole team effort by that line on the play in question, but you just felt like he went down on his knee to take that shot, and I just knew it was going in. Like there was no question in my mind.
Yeah, he's confident in that scoring area and scoring positions, and so yeah, I always expect that. Like I said, very confident kid. He is a vet now in this age, so
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, he's a dangerous guy, and I would want him on my team. But I also know that sometimes these coaches are looking for these big players, and then all of a sudden, the smaller player doesn't get to make it. And I don't think it's fair, especially in a tournament play, but still. So he's a 75-25, I think, gonna make it, but there's still a chance he might not.
Right. Carter Sutherland, interestingly, he did play in the game against Finland on Friday, but did not play in the game against USA. He's definitely a low chance
Oh
to
yeah.
make the team guy, but it was good that he got the opportunity and that, he is a good agitator. So again, depending on what they're looking for, he may be an extra defenseman on the roster that they'll throw in a particular situation against a particular opponent. I think that's really the only way he makes this team.
Right. Yeah, he's played well for his, no question about it. He's a decent
Mm-hmm.
player, but I just don't think he's gonna, with the breadth of defensemen they have, and I just don't see a role for him. I think that's the biggest thing.
Right.
One of the things I need to shoehorn in here is the absolute spectacular passing ability of Berkeley Catton. Oh my God. This guy is
Yeah.
special, man. He's special.
Yeah. Unfortunately, not a Flyer. So
No,
we are
no.
going to move on to talk about the other Flyers prospects in the tournament from the United States, Finland, and Sweden. We'll do that coming up next. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. One of the things I love about Indeed is it makes hiring all in one place so easy because you avoid all that busy work. I use it for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. It doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree that Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to their recent survey. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Listeners of Locked On Flyers will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now. Support Locked On Flyers by saying you heard about Indeed on the show. That's Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. So we will be doing that Matvey Michkov film review deep dive. Really excited to get to that. Plus answering your mailbag questions on Wednesday. So get those in on Twitter at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com or comment over on YouTube. So Noah Powell for Team USA. He got some switch up with his lines between games, which is good. Good to see him play with different people. And he had a great assist on the game against Finland last
Yeah, I saw that.
Wednesday. Yeah, a really good setup for Chris Pelosi's goal in that game.
Yeah, I think he looks good, but to make this team, he's going to have to be a shot blocking physical guy, like we talked about. Like that's his only role
Yeah.
making this team. He's not making it because of his offensive ability. We have to be real about that. There's too much offense on this team already.
Right. Right. And we have to remember that all the top guys like weren't playing in these
Right.
later games.
Right.
Right. So, even though he did get some of those offensive opportunities later, it's because the guys that normally would take them weren't there.
Right.
So that is why he's going to have to play that kind of specialty role
Yes.
player
Yes.
position in order to make the lineup, which I think is fine. I think the experience would be good for him regardless of his role, even if he's not playing
Oh,
quote unquote
sure.
his game per se. And I think it rounds out his skills.
Yeah, there's never a negative to it. It's always a positive. It always helps fuel a guy's season. It's a big plus. But yeah, will he be in Ottawa? I don't know.
Yeah, and I think honestly, he's a little bit more comfortable taking the puck up the ice at speed.
Hmm.
And like we talk about Jett Luchanko, where sometimes he just gets lost with the puck in open ice. Noah Powell does not.
No,
And I think that is
but
a
he's
big
much older.
difference.
We have to point that out.
Totally, totally. I think that's where you can just see the progression that
Yes,
Luchenko is going to have to go on. Even though they're different style players, it's the same skill.
right.
And I think that's where you kind of be like, oh, he should be where Noah Powell is on these kinds of things in order to take that next step.
Yeah, yeah, and but good for Powell. Like he did have a great showing, and at least he's in the conversation, and that's what you hope for when you're in these tournaments because a lot of it's out of their control.
Yeah, and in that USA versus Canada game, his forechecking really stood out. Was there every time trying to maintain possession or gain possession in the offensive zone. He did sort of score a goal that got taken away due to a penalty, which was absolutely the right call. Like there was no injustice here, but it was a really nice one timer on a 2-on-1 that I was just really impressed with the whole play. And I think, Powell was obviously a huge part of it. So maybe he'll get that kind of goal at a future USA
Oh,
hockey
I'm
game.
sure he'll get it somewhere. He'll get it in when he plays this year for sure.
Yeah, I want to talk about Jack Berglund because he was another guy that, quietly just made himself known over this tournament. I think, for me, the expectations were there, but not for him to stand out as much as he did in this tournament. And I think, some people were saying, well, maybe we need to raise his ceiling a little bit, not too much, but a little bit from where it had been. And, he had some great plays setting up goals. He scored his own goal in the loss, or sorry, when I think Sweden beat the US
Hmm.
in that game. But he was 1C on the team. He was on the top power play unit, and he played up to that expectation.
Yeah, like I said, I had seen him last year, so I'm not surprised at this. So I do think some people should raise the ceiling on him a little bit. I think that's fair when you're a big center who could play physical and can move the puck a little bit and score and is a good passer. And then when you play with guys like Eriksson and Fernstrom, who are really very talented, uh, I could see that line staying intact. So I would not be surprised at all if that's the case.
Yeah, there was one point where he caught like either a puck or a stick and was bleeding, and they had to like replace his jersey
Yeah,
for the next. So he's had a different number for the other period of the
that's
game.
funny.
But yeah, he's tough, and
He's a tough kid.
yeah, and just is an absolute grinder, and he plays both ends of the ice really strong. And I was very impressed. Wound up with 2 goals in 3 games. Honestly, could not ask for more from him at this point in his development.
No, I mean, he really stood out and good for him. I think in this last year, having spent a little time with him, chatting with him, seeing him play from last year to this year, he's really developed. Like this has been a really good year of development. If it keeps up, then he's gonna,
Hmm.
he might become like that second line center, but still I'm pegging
Yeah,
him for third. But you never know.
right.
Could be in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, I definitely think you could raise that ceiling to maybe not a permanent second line center, but absolutely could move up in the
Hmm.
lineup as necessary to a second line
Yeah.
center someday.
Hmm.
That's where I would put it. And then Heikki Ruohonen from Team Finland was the 1C in the game versus Sweden on Saturday. He wound up with 3 assists in 4 games played. He had an assist in the game versus Canada on Friday. And, he just had, like, I think what we saw in camp a
Yeah.
little bit was just his two-way play. He's gonna do everything at both ends of the ice, but he's like very responsible defensively, but is gonna step up offensively. And I think that will he make the team for World Juniors?
I think so.
I
I
think
do.
so. Yeah.
I do. I think he's going to make. I think that team. I think with what he brings forward, I think he is going to make it.
Yeah, I just think this was a really good tournament for him. It's going to make it hard for Finland to leave him at home with what he can bring to the table. I think, especially in this kind of tournament where each team is so different, you need different kinds of skills for the matchups. He has all of them, in terms
Yeah,
of
I
being able to
mean,
plug and play whatever they need him to do. I think that's important.
and he's been playing in their major tournaments, so I think he'll still
Hmm.
be a part of it. But he's had a really nice year. He really has, and it's a good year of development for him. I again, not as high on as like I'm higher on Berglund, obviously,
Sure,
but he's had a
sure.
nice year. So this is something where we'll see where this takes him. I'll get to see him at the Fall Classic in a couple months in Pittsburgh, and we'll see what he looks like in the USHL.
Yeah, I think next steps for all these guys is to get going on their regular teams for this upcoming year and step up in these tournaments, like you said, when necessary. And we'll see what happens at the next set of camps in the fall leading up
Hmm.
to World Juniors. It is Monday, so we have a new Nemesis of the Week as well as a new weekly summer poll that is related to what we just talked about. So we'll get to that coming up next.
I love sports. I love them so much, I never want them to stop. And now we're in full swing for summer sports like baseball. We absolutely miss hockey, but FanDuel lets me keep the sport going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. FanDuel has odds for Major League Baseball, the Paris games with over-unders on medal counts by country, soccer, and so much more. Should be baseball too. Baseball should be in the Olympics. So head over to fanduel.com/lockedon and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball.
All right, so this week's new poll question, there'll be a link to it in the show notes. It's over on our YouTube channel. Based on what we know now, which World Junior Summer Showcase Flyers standout prospect will make the Flyers roster first? Now, we're only allowed to have 5 choices, so we had to leave some people out.
Yeah,
If
we had to make some
they're
tough calls.
tough calls. So if they're your choice, they're not on the list, put it in the comments and let us know that we chose poorly. Our selections are Carsen
It's going to be
Bjarnason,
hard.
yeah, Carsen Bjarnason, Jett Luchanko, Jack Berglund, Heikki Ruohonen, and Denver Barkey. Which one of those makes the Flyers roster first? I guess we're going to change it to be like plays in a Flyers game
Right.
first, not necessarily makes the official roster,
There you
but
go.
plays in a Flyers game first. So looking forward to hearing what y'all have to say about that, and we will discuss your opinions on that on the Friday show. Moving over to our nemesis of the week. Last week, we talked a little bit about making something out of nothing with rumors flying around about Alexei Kolosov and, whatever is going on with the team. It's the summer and there's not a lot going on. So people tend to overinflate little things that happen. And we want to try and not do that. So that was part of our nemesis. Russ, you went into a tirade about the Olympics coverage, which I think, some mixed feedback about that. I've been having a lot of fun with it, still
I mean, I'm still
continuing.
watching, but I'm not watching a
Yeah,
lot.
I would say standout commentating has been Lori Hernandez in the gymnastics,
Yeah, I
former
watched some of
Olympian
the
herself.
gymnastics, and
She's
she was very
fantastic.
good. Yeah,
Yeah. Just
I
give some
agree.
extra insight as to like why this deduction and what to look for. And that was actually really, really cool. Moving on to this week's Nemesis. For me, it is now really August. Last week it was fake August because it was a couple days beforehand. But being really August, now I start thinking about September and the fall and the return of hockey and making all my plans. And so this week for me, it's getting everything in I want to, planning for September, whether it's going to rookie camp, Flyers training camp, all the events they have around it, preseason games. I am so excited, and there's so much going on in September, and I can't do all of it, but I want to do as much as I can. So, mapping out that calendar for September is my nemesis this week.
So my nemesis is just how lazy they are in Hollywood for basically just remaking stuff over and over again. Like, unfortunately, the longer you live, the more remakes you'll see. So, as an example, a series that I loved when I was a kid, The Man from Uncle, all of a sudden it's back. I mean, it literally, I was probably like 7 years old when I had the lunchbox or whatever. Now it's back, right? So it's like, and you could think about that for a lot of movies that I've probably seen 3 remakes of a certain movie already, starting from when you're a kid, and they wait every 15 years and then they make another one. It's like, can you make some original movies? Put some money into original movies. They only want to put money into these brands that people have seen before, and maybe a dad will bring his kid to, but it's like, you got to branch out and do more original movies, because I'm really getting sick of, like, there's almost nothing I want to go see in the movie theater anymore. Like, that's sad.
I do get what you're saying, and I think to some degree there is that. I think it's also, if you're going to invest millions of dollars into a production, you want some sort of guarantee of a return, and a familiar IP will do that. So I understand
And
why
that's
there's
why I
some.
bring Netflix into this too, like with the remake of Eddie Murphy's Beverly Hills Cop. It was mediocre. Like, it was just mediocre. That's an example.
Yeah, I think we need to have a good mix. I think it's fine to have some of that. You just have to have some new stuff too. The way I think about it sometimes is like, you don't tell people to never do Shakespeare again and reinvent and reinterpret Shakespeare. And people have done thousands and thousands and thousands of reproductions and recreations of Romeo and Juliet, let's say. There's like two
No,
different.
I'm okay
And
with plays like that, but like I
but
didn't
that's what I'm
care
saying.
what
It's
happened.
similar. It's similar.
Nah,
And
I
then
didn't care what happened to Eddie
what's
Murphy's character from Beverly Hills Cop from 30 years ago, and now we see him today, and he's an older guy. It wasn't a remake, but it was like,
Well, okay,
another version,
sequels
and
and
it's like,
remakes are different.
I know this
So I
wasn't.
think,
That's why I had to
yeah,
rephrase that, because I said remake, but
yeah,
his wasn't a remake. But still, it's again. When was the last one made? 30 years ago. Like, we didn't need to see it. They could have put money
yeah.
into
I mean,
something else.
I think sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, and it's kind of a crapshoot. But I do like having a mix. I like having some new stuff. I like having some sequel kind of stuff. I like some remakes, but never too much of one over the
But I'm
other
putting you on
because
a hot seat. Are you seeing enough good original movies? That's my
yeah,
beef here.
they're just
There's
not
not enough.
mainstream. They're
Right,
not
they're
in
not
mainstream.
mainstream. Well, that's the problem, because they
Yeah,
won't put money into
because
them.
well, because sometimes they're high risk, and a lot of times they're book adaptations and
Mhm.
things like that. I think creative, and filmmaking comes from all different sources, and I would like to see more original stuff in the movie theater, or outside of art house movie theaters, but you know, it kind of, the industry is what it is right now. I think there's a lot of issues going on
Yeah, it's not
there.
great.
Uh,
Well, I think we
it's
agree on
no,
that.
it is not great at all. But sometimes I like, reinventing or bringing back old IPs. Sometimes it works. I think Men in Black, for instance, worked really well. I think there are things that you can take some time off and come back to that do work out. So like Star Wars. Anyway, that will do it for today's show. We will be back on Wednesday. And as a reminder, we always want to hear from you. So if you've got those mailbag questions, get them in on Twitter at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com or comment over on YouTube. I'm Rachel. I'm on Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube that's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Have a great day, everyone.